So this week we took a look at two different sources about Stanislavski. The first source was a PDF, and in the PDF itself, it was looking at how Stanislavski got his start with the Moscow theater, or the Moscow Art Theater. And it talks about his meeting with Nemirovich Danchenko, as I think the person's name, and how it lasted 18 hours during like the summer of 1897. And then how between 1897 to 1898, after that meeting, how they were spending all their time trying to like collect capital to like get, you know, their idea off the ground for creating a better kind of theater in Russia at the time. And so one of the things in that I found interesting is that, like, even then, right, the basis of getting the theater off the ground started at the ground of trying to secure like necessary capital, and how a lot of smaller theater groups and companies look to do that today. I mean, even bigger theater companies look to do that today with like donations and art grants and things like that. And the Moscow Art Theater had a lot of different issues. One of the bigger issues was that they were very successful with their first play, and then they turned around and the second play wasn't as successful, and it took them a while to find something. I think like 2 or 3 plays later, they found another successful play, but just trying to really get into the business of creating art and just trying to navigate that and fighting the good fight and keeping their vision and their dream alive was what the basis of that article was about. And then for the Brestov chapter that we had to read, chapter 2, it delves more into just who Stanislavski was as a person and how his theater career started. And what was interesting to me was that, you know, he started building his resume as a child. He had his own marionette theater that he charged admissions for, and he ran actual shows through. And for a while he did that. And then he later had a theater that he ran, acted for, and did all of the things for in his house as a young man as well. And then one of the biggest takeaways from that for me was that there was a part in the chapter on page 1718 where it was like, it soothes us to realize that this great man did not spring from the womb fully formed, knowing all the answers, but that he, like us, struggled and stumbled. In fact, at first, he did almost everything wrong, right? And I said it in my answers, our written answers, that, yeah, I mean, when we look at Stanislavski, Meisner, Hagen, Adler, and the like, right, we forget that they started somewhere. We're not perfect in their journey, but they started somewhere, and they had to learn and experience different things in their own respective ways to become like pioneers and giants. And then the final takeaway from that for me also comes from the book directly on pages 19 and 20 in Brestov, is that Stanislavski's early epiphany was that it's not important if you play well or ill, you must play truthfully. And just that whole chapter was very insightful on who he was as a businessman and who he was as a person and what his struggles meant to him getting to where he was, and the earlier insights of his ideology.